Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you're all fully recovered from your lunch and roaring to go. Are you all roaring to go? I can't hear you. Are you all roaring to go? Okay. So it's my pleasure to be invited here this afternoon to give you all a very short and compact insight to Springer Nature and our developing country initiatives, and how we have worked for many, many years, 25 years, with INASP, and it's been a long-term and excellent working relationship. But more important, to put you all in the picture, we are a new company. Springer and Nature merged in May 2015, and I'm quite proud to stay here and say that we've been cooperating, both Springer and Nature have been cooperating for 25 years since their founding with INASP. So we've been in there for the long term, and we hope to remain there for the long term as well. 25 years of close cooperation means, in a nutshell, and I would like to compliment Dr. Sian Harris on her presentation earlier today. We had the same surname, but we're no relation. Because Sian mentioned there's 4 million researchers, 1,600 universities, 50,000 e-journals, and 20,000 e-books. She left out one very important point. That's more or less the current day numbers, but that's been going on since INASP started. Initially on a smaller scale, but today on an equivalent scale. And if you multiply all those numbers on an annual basis by 25 years, it's a mammoth amount of students, professors, researchers, teachers, that through the wonderful, initially the Perry program, but all the other activities that INASP undertake, in one sentence, I would say that INASP has been implemental in bringing science to the developing world. Springer Nature, sorry, that's an old habit. We've worked very closely with INASP for many, many years, and that cooperation can be expressed in a number of ways. First of all, support. From our company policy point of view, we've always attempted to support as closely as possible any low-fee and philanthropic initiatives that help to bring our scientific content to academic institutions and their users throughout the developing world, and of course in the developing world. We've worked towards enhancing higher education and research depth, breadth and scalability since the early days of online access, working together and in great depth with such organizations as INASP and Research for Life. It's been instrumental in enhancing and advancing higher education and scientific research and scientific writing in the developing world. The depth, the breadth and the scalability that these initiatives have achieved online would never have been possible in the older print environment. Online has opened thousands of doorways. What we would like to see, Springer Nature considers all the INASP programs as great stepping stones to help universities and research institutions to become more completely self-governing and self-financing and undertake more and better higher education research and research writing. And now you see more recently, between 2016 and 2018, many of the countries that INASP were working with, and we were working with INASP in those countries, have now made the next step to set up licensing agreements with a large number of major scientific publishers directly. But INASP have really been instrumental in laying the stepping stones to achieve that. And in discussions yesterday with INASP, the countries that have moved out there's still quite a list of countries that are moving in now. So INAS, we're going to concentrate more and more on the low-income countries, not too many at one time because it's not manageable, but step for step, the wonderful work they've been doing, they will be able to roll over into new countries, and we are pleased to support them with that. Working together within us is very important for a big publisher like Springer Nature, and it really helps us to get a lot of support, and our authors and societies are really happy that we're giving something back by giving these low fee and in some cases free access to the really poor countries. It's helping to get their work visible, but for their own sense and point of view, it's very important for them to know that we're giving something back as a major scientific publisher. And one of the most important factors, and what you can see from the good work that INAS has been doing, I can't quantify this, or I don't have separate statistics to prove this, but I can speak on behalf of Springer Nature, and INAS work and our cooperation with them has greatly enhanced scientific output throughout the developing world, and exponential numbers in the last, especially the last decade. So how we at Springer Nature, how we sell it internally. So we have a dedicated site developing countries and initiatives on our company intranet. So anybody within our company, it's 13,000 people, have daily access to the intranet. They're obliged to look at the intranet when they log on in the morning, and they can see if we've made a new agreement or we've gone into a new country or new journals have been added. People can read about it, and they have a definitive source of finding information on all the initiatives we participate in. I'm very pleased about that because I actually personally manage the site as well. We also have within our company website, which is on the public domain, we have an external website where we quantify shortly and sweetly all the developing countries initiatives we participate in them. INAS is one of the first we really promote, but Research for Life, CGIAR, and many, many more. I also have quite an important role within the company of spreading the word, and I get countless numbers of questions from authors and editors of what are we doing in these countries. So I'm like a pivot within the company to ensuring that everybody's brought up to date with all the pros of these initiatives, but also the parameters. How far can we go? What do our agreements entail? And that's really revitalizing for lots of authors. And it really helps them to convey this message to our editors, to convey the message to all our authors and societies. So we're also very busy at this moment within Springer Nature because we're a newly formed company in revitalizing our commitment to responsible business, and one of the key words there is sustainability. And we're at this moment undergoing a total review, which is very much geared to within the possibilities, the parameters within the company to make ourselves more visible. It's very similar to the presentation the lady from Oxfam gave, and which she gave Unilever as an example. We call it environment, social and governance. So we are aware that what we are doing in the company as a major commercial organization, that we're also not just taking, but we're also giving back. Last but not least, INAS has asked me to say, how can we all as scientific publishers, STM, etc., what can we possibly do in future to give back? And first and foremost, I would like to remind all scientific publishers about INAS principles of responsible engagement for publishers. They presented this document last year at this meeting, and I think they actually based the document on the last 25 years that they've been cooperating with Springer, because all the rules and regulations or all the guidelines they've laid out is exactly the basis of where we have been working in all those years. Another way that, and this is the last part of my presentation today, another way you proactively work within INESP and within your own publishing company to find inventive ways to support INESP and other such initiatives. I can give you one very good example which has enabled the former Springer, but it's rolling over to Springer Nature now, to support INESP and other major organizations working in the developing world. So this was an initiative where we equally supported both INESP and Research for Life, and that was the Springer Book Archives. Springer is a very, very big book publisher going all the way back to 1842, and in recent years we've digitalized all our historical archives, and that's more than 110,000 e-books, original print books, digitalized, put in subject collections, and we wrote to all our authors and their heirs of all those e-books. And it's a collection from 1842 to 2005. It said we want to do something more for organizations supporting their developing world activities. If we make these archives, would you be prepared to waive your royalties? And a large percentage of our authors signed off on that initiative, and for all those authors that signed off, their royalties fees were commissioned in a depot, and I'm very pleased to say that early last year we were able to make quite a sizable contribution to both INESP and to Research for Life, which has helped them to produce or to create specific systems which are really an extension of the good work they're doing. So that's what you all could take back with you and think a little bit outside of the box, and not necessarily if you go to publishers and say, I need 100,000 for this or I need 100,000 for that, it's not going to work. So try and think of clever ways to create income without having to make a physical contribution from your turnover. That's what it boils down to. So last but not least, it has always been an honor and a pleasure working closely with INESP and all their wonderful staff over all these years. And I would like to wish you all every future, and within brackets, in for the long term, success with the wonderful work you're all doing. Thank you very much.